Hello again and welcome to another Mordian Glory Warhammer 40k video. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about everyone's favorite Ewok crushing machines. It is the Imperial Guard Sentinels. And I don't mean to alarm you. I don't mean to come in with a controversial, classic, hot Mordian Glory take, but I'm gonna say it, boys. I think Sentinels are right now the best unit in the whole of the Guard. A bold statement indeed. And you know what? I'm going to have to back that bad boy up. Without further ado, let's mount up, walk out, and stride right into today's episode. Good news, everyone! Warlord Games is now an official sponsor of the Mordian Glory channel. Warlord Games are the creators of the fantastic World War II game system Bolt Action, along with many other incredible tabletop games. And they have been kind enough to give the Mordian Glory channel an affiliate link. If you follow that link down in the description below, not only can you get your hands on some truly awesome models, but you will also be supporting the channel. A massive thank you to Warlord Games for supporting the channel, and now let's get back to the video. Let us begin with a brief overview of the Sentinel stat lines and data cards. First up, we have the Scout Sentinels. These have got a movement of 10, toughness 7, a 3-up save, 7 wounds, leadership 7, and an OC of 2. They start off with a multi-laser, but frankly, that's a really crap weapon. And so you're going to want to replace that with either an autocannon, a heavy flamer, a las cannon, a missile launcher, or a plasma cannon. All of these different weapons are standard issue across the Guard. So this is not a special Sentinel autocannon or anything like that. It's the same autocannon that you're going to find on your infantry squads, and you'll find the same thing on your Sentinel as well. In addition to their main weapon, each Sentinel can be upgraded with a Sentinel chainsaw to give it a little bit of close combat, but don't get the wrong end of the stick. This thing isn't going to be cutting down Terminators or winning any combats against dedicated melee units. It's just there to allow it to bully other units and to be able to do some damage in melee. Finally, your Scout Sentinels can be equipped with a Hunter Killer Missile, which is a one-shot anti-tank weapon, which does add a significant level of punch to the vehicle. Scout Sentinels have 2 abilities. Firstly, they have a scout move of 9 inches, meaning they can get the board very quickly at the start of the game, or they can redeploy defensively if you don't get first turn. And you have Daring Recon, which allows you to target an enemy unit in the shooting phase within 18 inches, and you get reroll 1s to hit against that unit, both for the Sentinels and any other units that shoot at them. There's also a whole bunch of stuff that helps with indirect fire as well, but considering that the days of artillery spam Guard are over, that second part of the ability is a bit less useful. Now, the sister to the Scout Sentinel is the Armored Sentinel. This thing has less maneuverability, but does make up for it with increased firepower and toughness. So the Armored Sentinel does not have a scout move and only moves 8 inches, but that's still fast enough, and it's toughness 8, and it has a 2+ save as well. It can take all of the same weapon options as the Scout Sentinel, and they are identical here as they were on the previous datasheet, and you get the chainsaw and you get the Hunter Killer Missile. The big difference is the ability, which means that each time you target a monster or vehicle, you can reroll the wound roll. Both Armored and Scout Sentinels can be taken in squads of 1 to 3, and at the time of recording, Scout Sentinels cost 60 points and Armored Sentinels cost 65 points. Now that just about covers the Sentinels datasheets, and some of you might be wondering, Mordian, what's the big deal with Sentinels? I mean, they're the same as when they started in 10th edition, right? Same datasheets, nothing's really changed, the points have gone up and down a bit, but they're basically just as they were, right? Well, here's the thing. Sentinels may have got the same datasheet, but there's a lot of things around them that has changed. And many of these changes have come about recently with Pariah Nexus, the Munitorum Field Manual, and the balanced data slate. First and foremost, we have the update to Born Soldiers, which is the Guard Index Detachment rule. How Born Soldiers used to work is if you stayed still, then you got lethal hits. This really benefited artillery armies who would just sit out of line of sight blasting away. But now that is gone. Born Soldiers no longer benefits you for staying still. How it works is if you have line of sight to an enemy unit and you have the squadron keyword, then you get lethal hits against vehicles and monsters. And if you have line of sight to a unit and you have the regiment keyword, then you get lethal hits against things which are not vehicles and monsters. Essentially, this means that your guard vehicles are better at taking on enemy vehicles, your big stuff takes on their big stuff, whilst your infantry takes on their little stuff. But the crazy thing is that Sentinels have both the squadron and the regiment keywords. So this means that Sentinels have lethal hits against all targets all of the times. Whether it is a big enemy monster or a unit of enemy infantry, your Sentinels are the only unit in the entire index which get permanent lethal hits. It's like going back to the days of 9th edition and the old Born Soldier rules, which were phenomenally powerful. Anyone that played with that old 9th edition codex will tell you that having lethals all the time is an incredible power boost to a unit. This opens up loads of really cool options for your Sentinel weapon loadouts. Previously, you would just spam las cannons, and I want to make something clear. I think you can absolutely still do that, and las cannons very well may still be the premier choice, because we're in a meta of vehicles and monsters. You just need big guns to deal with big targets, right? But the problem with las cannons is that they don't really do all that much into infantry. They will absolutely fry. They will zot a Blood Angel Death Company coming running at you, but you're only going to kill like 3 out of the 10-man brick that's coming down. But with these updates to Born Soldiers, it looks like plasma cannons are back on the menu. With D3 shots per Sentinel, giving you an average of 2 per walker, plus the fact that this thing has got the blast special rule, if someone comes at you with one of those big aforementioned bricks of combat infantry, you've not got 3 shots into them. You've got an average of 4 per Sentinel. That's 12 in total. And if you're running Scout Sentinels, for example, and you've got take aim on your Sentinel unit, then that's going to be 12 shots, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s with lethal hits, and if overcharged, wounding on 2s as well. At AP -3 damage too. The big issue that plasma cannons had in the past, though, was their ability to deal with vehicles, because they were only strength 8 when you overcharge them, so you were kind of fishing for 5s and 6s. But with lethal hits, that is less of an issue. And when you look at armored Sentinels who get rerolls to wound against vehicles and monsters, they can really leverage the new plasma cannons. And an interesting way that I've just been thinking about using Sentinel squadrons is to have a squadron of scouts with las cannons and a squadron of armored with plasma cannons. Scout Sentinels are there to give the reroll 1s. They're going to be just naturally good at anti-tank because they've got the las cannons and the hunter killer missiles. They should generate 1 lethal hit from those 6 shots in the first volley. After that, the hunter killers will be gone. But the las cannons themselves are strong enough where they can just, deal with enemy armor. And then you've got the armor Sentinels who can deal with the more hoardy things with those plasma cannons, but they've got the number of shots from the D3 shots, plus they've got the full rerolls from their own ability where they can still definitely pull double duty as light anti-tank as well. I say light only because of it just being damage 2. But between those 2 units, let's say you had 2 units of 3, 1 of scout, 1 of armored, I really think you would be able to handle most ranged threats that you came across. And you would have enough wounds there to be very annoying for your opponent to try and shift. I mean, think about that for a moment. Sentinels have got 7 wounds each. You would have 42 wounds in these 2 squads alone. And half those wounds are going to be T7 3-up save, and half those wounds are going to be T8 2+ save. But it's not all about the lethal hits. There are a few other bits that have come about that have started to make Sentinels really come to the fore. Firstly, we have the changes to reinforcements. Now, any stratagem that allows you to add a unit back to the game, like reinforcements to the guard, has now been limited to once per game. So no longer can you throw wave after wave of infantry at the enemy. You can throw one wave of infantry, get one squad back, and then you are done. Now, Scout Sentinels, Armor Sentinels, they have the regiment keyword, so they are eligible for the reinforcement stratagem, and in many ways they are the best target for it now. You will get the most points back if you do it on an Armored Sentinel unit. You'll get almost 200 points back with reinforcements. That's almost like a 10% boost to your list, and also they are, with only being able to bring back one unit, you want to bring back a unit that's going to be impactful. And bringing back 20 guardsmen, often all that really did is just sit back on an objective, or maybe start screening out a little bit. But bringing back a unit of sentinels is going to bring back some significant firepower to your army as well. And they come back with the hunter killers. Don't forget that they get fully replenished. On top of this, with reinforcements being once per game now, you're less incentivized to take someone like the Lord Solar. Now that might sound insane because the Lord Solar can do loads of things, but one of the biggest and best things he did is add extra command points to your army. But most of the time, well, I'm speaking from my personal experience here, your experience may differ, but most of the time, I spent those 2 CP a turn on reinforcements. That's what I spent it on. I didn't really bother about anything else. Well, now I can only use reinforcements once. I don't really need the Lord Solar as much. There's less of a pressing need for him. He's still very, very, very good, don't get me wrong. And he's still a good unit, and you can't really go wrong with having him in your army. But he is expensive. 125 points for him. You're going to want to give him a platoon command squad, a Catan squad to hang out in. That's 240 points in total. Well, you know what doesn't need tank orders? You know what the Lord Solar doesn't really need to order? Sentinels. Sentinels can receive orders from infantry officers as well, because they've got the regiment keyword. So you don't really need the Lord Solar's CP, you don't really need the Lord Solar's ability to order vehicles if you're just spamming out loads of Sentinels. And I legitimately think you can do that, because Sentinels can receive orders from infantry officers, they can do the role of both vehicle. They sort of blur the line between vehicle and infantry because they can absolutely walk onto objectives and hold them. You can tell your Sentinels to duty and honor, that is 9 OC. Against most enemy units, that's going to be enough to hold the objective. A lot of elite units that you face these days are like 1 OC per model. So that's like 5 OC at best. What I think is a genuinely legitimate option is, rather than spending 240 points on a Lord Solar and then taking a bunch of tanks for him to order around, instead you spend loads of points on taking Sentinels. I think 4 squadrons is a good amount. 2 of Scout, 2 of Armored, and then having a couple of Chimeras, 1 with Creed, 1 with Strachan in, a couple of Catan units in there as well, things you were going to take anyway. And then what you can do is have 2 command vehicles ordering your Sentinels around. You're already taking those infantry, you're already taking those scout mirrors, so you're not adding on extra points. All you're doing is, rather than spending 240 points on the Lord Solar, you're spending 110 points on taking Strachan and Creed in your list instead. However, there is one small concern I do have with Sentinels, and that is their respective damage output for their points cost. At the end of the day, you can get a unit of Sentinels for 180 points. Or you could get like a Lehman Russ Vanquisher for 145 points. Now that unit of Sentinels is going to have 3 las cannons, all 3 plasma cannons, and it's going to have 300 killers. But the Lehman Russ Vanquisher is going to have the Vanquisher cannon, it's going to have a las cannon, it's going to have 2 plasma cannons, and it's going to have a stubber and a hunter killer missile. Very, very much could be argued that that Vanquisher has got equal firepower to those Sentinels, and yet it is 35 points cheaper. But I think that Sentinels are bringing a lot of other things to the party as well. I think the fact that you can use them as pseudo infantry, rather than bringing infantry anymore, you could just bring lots and lots of Sentinels with a bit of infantry, mech up and chimeras. And I think that Sentinels are really good at doing double duty. They do infantry and they do tanks. They do damage output and they can do objective control as well. I think another weakness of the Sentinels is the potential of getting rushed and ganked by very quick assault armies. I mentioned Blood Angel Death Company before. Chance would be a fine thing to be able to catch something like that out in the open, but on certain boards with certain terrain, I'm thinking WTC and maybe UKTC style terrain, those Death Company are going to jump out and jump on top of you before you can really draw a shot with those Sentinels. In that case, your Sentinels kind of get relegated to screening, which is something they can do, and they can use that reinforced stratagem, so it's not the end of the world, but it's definitely something you're going to have to be aware of. I wouldn't say you could just walk across the board and just auto-win with Sentinels. They're still going to require tactics, they're still going to require finesse, they're still going to require practice to make use effectively. And those are two weaknesses that I see of them that I think will require players to take into account and play around. But of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Do you think that Scout and Armor Sentinels are the new top tier S tier unit for the Guard? How many of them would you put in your list? Or do you think that good old Leman Russes and Rogel Dawns are still going to carry the day? If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to smash that like button. It really does boost the video with the YouTube algorithm. It's one of the best ways you can help support the channel. And also subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing, truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full time without the incredible and generous support of my members, so thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bon Vert, Lord Pryor, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.